good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're calling in from. Friends, I'm so happy to be here, so glad to be with you. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for being together in this way. It's just lovely to see folks saying hello on the sidebar. Thank you for bringing your voice into the room, if you will. It's lovely to see some friends that I haven't seen in a very long time. So again, thank you for being here. If you're new to this platform, welcome. I think that Sangha Live is doing something incredibly important in our world right now. Namely, during a time in which we are moving through a global pandemic, being able to gather in a global way consciously feels key. So again, thank you for being here. No worries for being late. This is, this is an opportunity to begin before we move into the sit. It's an opportunity to begin by continuing to bring our voices in the room. Although now I would love to hear just a word or phrase, anything you're present to in this moment. I'll read out a couple of these words or phrases. Again, this is in the name of bringing the collective together in a formal way. So if we were in the Dharma hall, I would be going around the room and just hearing a little bit from each of you. What's alive for you in this moment? What's our starting point for our practice time together today? Several of you are present to gratitude, community practice, and calm. Thank you, Kiki, for your note. I really appreciate that you've been enjoying these morning sessions. Hello, Anna Maria from North Carolina. Feeling touched, empathetic, nourished, tired, joy, warmth and community, global community, joy, intention, a bit anxious, contentedness, expansion, calm, and belonging to a great family, preoccupied after the end of lockdown, friendship and balance and integration, peace, good cheer, receptive, present to it being a beautiful spring day, positivity and peace, connection, gratitude and grief, confused, slowing down, more and more present to being here. Friends, thank you. Sangha. Disgusted with humanity's greed, appreciation, Sangha, happy. Sharing great vision, connection, exhausted, worry, anxious. So based on the theme of today, it feels important to bring your voices into this virtual room, to feel the space of acceptance that allows for all of these varied and yet similar experiences. We're going to move into the meditation now, and I do invite you to treat this as though you were in a Dharma hall. So sit in a way that's supportive for your practice. Allow yourself to settle in. And before I ring this meditation bell, let's take 3 of the longest and deepest inhalations and exhalations we've taken yet today. Feeling into the presence of our community. Resting in the recognition of our togetherness. I'll be guiding the beginning of this sit. At some point, we'll move into silence. And the meditation will be half an hour long. If you're new to meditation, bring a sense of gentleness to your experience. Watch for any tendency to try to do this right. And welcome. Begin this meditation by noticing any internal dialogue that may be present. Notice the self-talk that's alive in this moment. What are you saying to yourself about this experience? What is the conditioned mind asserting, believing, and assuming? Simply notice without any judgment. Our habitual temptation might be, upon noticing this self-talk, to try to get rid of it, push it away, quote unquote, let it go, meaning this letting go really has more of a quality of trying to get rid of versus releasing. So notice the self-talk And then notice your relationship to the self-talk. That thought shouldn't be here right now. So it's like the second layer of self-talk. I wish I weren't having that experience, whatever that second layer is. Many of us in practice are trained to witness the thinking mind. And in that practice, we're attending often to the content of thinking mind, thoughts of future, thoughts of past, labeling. In this moment, notice, be aware of the witness. Does this witness have agenda? Is it seeking after and trying to find a particular state? Is this witness detached from experience, hovering outside experience, observing? But perhaps observing from a seat of expectation. Awareness itself has no agenda. Awareness itself has no expectation. Awareness itself holds no single perspective, position, stance. It's not flagged in the ground anywhere. It makes no claims. Rather than attending to specific thought forms in this moment, rather than claiming this seat of trying to get somewhere in practice through letting go of the activity of the mind or through the mechanism of discipline. Simply be aware of being aware. Imagine if there were a flashlight and the beam of light was your attention. So the attention moving out of this flashlight, attending to thoughts or emotions or the part of you that's witnessing thoughts and emotions, rather than having this narrow beam of light directed to these experiences. For this meditation, allow this beam of light to soften, release, and rest back in its source. So attention resting in awareness. Rest the attention in aware presence, uncolored by the activity of the thinking mind. The awareness that's undisturbed by strong emotions. The awareness that has no starting point and no ending point. Unborn and undying. Free the habit of trying and striving. Of focusing on objects and then being in relationship with the focus of your attention, whatever the flashlight is landing upon. Free the conditioned temptation to seek a specific state. The byproduct, a quality of awareness or pure consciousness is equanimity, acceptance. Complete acceptance. The result of complete acceptance is equanimity. So simply notice the temptation to try to find this state of equanimity. As if it's an object that you, a separate self, can attain. If you meditate because you're trying to be equanimous, or if you meditate because you're trying to be a better person, you'll always be busy trying. If you meditate because you're in love with resting in your own luminous being, awareness, pure consciousness, then you'll always be in love. So rest in love, as love. Allow equanimity to be the byproduct of this resting. Rather than something you have to do or try to attain. Friends, thank you. Again, it's lovely to be here with you today. I am reminded by Sangha Live to put in a plug at this point in time for supporting this platform if you're able. The green buttons right below me. We wouldn't exist without your support. Sangha Live has an entire great team of folks who are working behind the scenes to bring these teachings to the world. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the call, I think at a very, very important time. One thing that I love about this platform is that if you're not in a position to donate at this point in time, these teachings are offered freely anyway. So if you can donate, please know that you're supporting others who are in a position right now in which they can't offer financial support. So thank you for your generosity. So this theme, finding equanimity, I would retitle this, if I were writing the title today, to knowing equanimity. We are deeply habituated to be the finder. So even to say finding equanimity can trigger that habit of ours to strive for a specific state. That keeps something in place. This I who strives. I'm eager to hear what happens for you. What was alive for you in that meditation? As I offered questions of inquiry, questions that hopefully took you to your own direct experience. Prompts that invited direct experience. What is this direct experience? If we were to strip it down and make it very simple and digestible, direct experience of true nature, of unconditioned awareness. It's only through a direct experience of this unconditioned awareness that, not that we get rid of our habit to strive, but that habit to strive is freed. Free to simply be another weather pattern moving through an open sky, the open sky of awareness, or another wave in the vast ocean. Although this ocean is unlimited, has no shore, unbound. So yes, acceptance is the byproduct. It's a quality of unconditioned awareness. It's not something we have to try to do. Equanimity is a quality of who we authentically are. Unconditioned awareness is by nature full of equanimity, because unconditioned awareness isn't identified with the conditioned habit to strive, to want to change experience, to want to fix, to want to transcend. I see that some questions are coming in, and I would love to bring you on screen to engage if you'd like to. And I'll first just read the one that's typed in. Spencer, hello. I noticed something I had never seen in a meditation. Yes, I'm willing to come on screen. Spencer, lovely. I'd love to see you here today. And I see a comment. Koisi, I hope I'm saying your name right. I experienced a rather palpable, almost immediate sense of relief, and then a deep wave of exhaustion. Yeah, often the wave of exhaustion is like, picture if you've been carrying, hi Spencer, just one moment, I'll be right with you. Thank you, Melanie, for bringing Spencer on. Picture the exhaustion of, I've been carrying a very heavy backpack full of bricks, and I finally put it down. I finally put that habit down of carrying these around. I'd forgotten I was even carrying them around. I'm so accustomed to it. There can be a sense of with the releasing of that backpack. So thank you. Spencer, hello. Good to see you.
Good morning.
Look, our tech is working. Spencer.
Also, I have a new computer, and so
Great.
it's a very fresh
Great.
version of Chrome, so has
Great.
no past history. And everything that you're saying now, and what you were saying about equanimity, is within the what happened during the meditation. Is I noticed that early in the meditation that I was hearing your voice, and that there was something in me, and this is really hard to describe, but there was something in me that was internally repeating every word you said as you said it in your voice, and it was at the same moment. And I thought, wow, that's odd. And then I don't know if this had something to do with it, but I noticed that with my eyes closed, my internal vision, my eyes were pointed down and to the right. And I brought them up. And then what you were saying, that from that point on, it's like it opened me and it was penetrating into me. It was not that itself was equanimity. It brought that upon me before you talked about the subject. And I don't know how often that's happened because I'd never noticed it before. I thought it was, I think it's fascinating to see just another level of acceptance opening. And I'm just grateful to have been blessed with that. See.
Yes. And Spencer, I think to keep with today's theme, what's so significant about what you're saying is that that's not an experience you attained through your efforts. In fact, it seems silly to suggest that because you were focused and disciplined and a good meditator and could be in right relationship with everything that's happening in the world, you could have this experience.
Where's my success flag? Right, yes. None of that.
None of the success flag is a creation of the conditioned mind.
Absolutely.
And it seems to me that this is a really important time to be knowing this inherent equanimity, which is a byproduct, a quality of unconditioned awareness. Because the world in this moment doesn't need more of our conditioned habit, more of our conditioned attempts to control.
Mm-hmm.
We are in a great unknown, and I imagine that everyone on this call can relate to the conditioned impulse to try to grip, grasp, cling, control, to look at everything through the lens of loss. And when we're looking through that lens, our habit is, I need to regain some semblance of control. I need to find a certain state, or I need to create a particular experience.
Figure it out.
I need to figure this out. But meanwhile, we all long for the same thing. We all long for the peace and the happiness that comes, the happiness that is the byproduct of awareness. We might, it's not happy in the way that we talk about glee. It's deep well-being. Equanimity.
Absolutely. I really get this
Mm-hmm.
in a way I never had had before. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. And thank you, Lynn, just wrote in and chimed into this conversation by saying, not me, I don't feel a sense of loss, I feel a sense of gain, and I feel blessed through this time. Wonderful, wonderful. Many people I speak to are struggling with a felt sense of not having control. And again, our habit is to try to regain control. If for you in this time, you feel a greater sense of ease, a greater remembrance of your own true nature, lovely. By all means, sing the song that arises for you in that remembrance, because the world needs to hear it. Thank you so much for coming on, Spencer.
Oh,
Good to see you.
Good to see you. Good to be.
So wonderful. Avas, you'd like to come on screen? I would love that. Thank you, Melanie, for bringing Avas on next. Yes, and thank you, Sheila, for acknowledging you're sad for your grandchildren's future. I hear you. I hear you. There's plenty of room for our sadness, for our grief, in this unconditioned, open awareness that we are. So thank you for your patience, friends, as Melanie brings on Abbas. Melanie, while you're bringing Abbas on, I'm going to just read the next question, since there are more coming in. There's another participant that said, Nikki, I also noticed something I'd never seen in practice, and feel free, Melanie, to just bring Abbas on at any point in time, and I'll come back to Nikki's question. A dark, stern, sinister figure that seemed to be pretending to be awareness. It prevailed for a while before pure awareness came. I wonder what this was. Yes, Nikki. Any figure that comes into view with the costume of awareness, treat it like any other passing thought or strong emotion. Picture, for example, Rupert Spira sometimes uses the metaphor of an open room. The space of the room is not disturbed by the people who enter the room. The space of the room is undisturbed by the activity in the room. Allow this figure, if you will, to be treated in the same way. Pure awareness, pure consciousness has room for all of it. True nature has room for all of it. Is not offended, cannot be disturbed by this activity. Thank you, Nikki, for writing in. Looks like Abbas is accepting and connecting now. Great. All right, Abbas. There might be a little bit of a technical difficulty going on, so I'll read another. Stefan, thank you ever so much for the meditation, for your teaching. No one here, only consciousness. Is it correct to say that your teaching is a combination of Buddhism and Advaita Vedanta? And then again, perhaps that question is irrelevant because both these traditions point to that which is beyond concepts. Peace and love, Stefan. Yes, I trained Stefan, as you might know, in a Zen Buddhist monastery, and why questions were looked down upon, or questions that were deemed by the teacher to be intellectual or conceptual questions were frowned upon. I have a very different relationship to those questions now. I trust that through practice, we can see the difference between a habit to move to concepts as a way of avoiding direct experience, and then just general and I'll say innocent curiosity. So for example, if I know that someone's teachings have been impacted by the Advaita Vedanta tradition, I might go read something that opens up a whole new line of inquiry for me. I remember the first time I learned about Ramana Maharshi, Sri Ramana Maharshi, Advaita Vedanta teacher. I had never, my entire monastic training, I had never heard of Sri Ramana Maharshi. And my own understanding, my own capacity to articulate my direct experience was deeply enhanced. So be careful not to identify with the conditioned tendency to poo-poo inquiry. That's a Buddhist term, poo-poo inquiry. Watch for that, just notice that. And yes, if you'd like to look more into the kind of meditation I was offering today, this approach is highly influenced by Advaita Vedanta, but it also is highly influenced by what I think of as the original spirit of Zen, which is to know our true nature and then live that experience. To have this question of who am I be at the forefront of our practice, which from this approach is really a non-practice of sorts. Because what we're referring to around this state of equanimity is that it's not a state to be achieved by the illusion of a separate self that seeks and strives and tries to change and adjust and fix. So who am I? What am I? And that's why at the beginning of the meditation, that was just one form offered as a way to explore this inquiry in our direct experience. Am I this self-talk? For most of you, you are probably quite clear quite quickly that you are not the voice of the conditioned mind. Well, am I this witness that's detached from experience, watching, but separate from experience, and maybe even putting a spin on experience? You should be able to still the mind through meditation. You need to focus more. Let go of that. So if you go back through the meditation, you'll see there were layers there of exploration. Is this who I am? Is this who I am? Am I the felt sense of a separate self that's trying to achieve something? Trying to attain? Who am I? What am I? Stefan, thank you for writing in. All right. Abbas, are you still here and available? Perhaps you needed to restart your computer. I'm just going to keep going with these questions. Thank you, Melanie, for letting me know you're not hearing from Abbas at this point in time. Please feel free, if since we're not hearing from Abbas at this point in time, please feel free to go ahead and mention if you'd like to come on screen with me. It is definitely my preferred form of engagement if you're willing. It's really lovely to be able to have the exchange feel a little more full than it feels if I'm just responding to your text. That said, thank you for writing in. There's no requirement to come on screen with me. Martin, can you talk a bit about being with the wanting and the striving after you've experienced equanimity and then got lost? Yes, thank you, Martin. Martin, good catch. You then said, I almost feel this question is propelled by striving and trying to get back to that state. Martin, lovely. I would agree. What's important to acknowledge is that's not bad or wrong. Lovely that we can just notice how deep the conditioning is to try to achieve a state. But I take us back to this insight and to this place of inquiry. This is an invitation for you for exploration about the way in which, if we're striving for a specific state, we will be striving. And we need not be fooled by, oh, but I'm striving for the state of enlightenment. I have a noble striving. It's actually energetically no different. Like our being doesn't recognize the striving for enlightenment as any different than the striving for something that we would think of as more mundane. The striving for more money, the striving for a different partner that's finally going to make us happy, a new object in our experience. It's the same process. So it's important to recognize here, it's not what, it's how. Same process. So, I'm sorry, I think that question is gone now. Let's see. Let me go over to answered questions and see if I see it there. So yes, Martin, just to wrap up, talk a bit about being with the wanting and the striving after you've experienced equanimity and then got lost. So to continue and to wrap up, how are you receiving the information that you are lost? That's really worth looking into deeply. We make great assumptions. We forget to look to see how we're receiving information. Often, we're believing the narrative created by the conditioned mind. But can a wave in the ocean ever be lost from the sea? Can the individual flames of a fire ever be lost from its source? Can it exist outside? Can the flame exist outside fire? Can the wave exist outside sea? So when you feel yourself perceiving that you're outside your true nature, rather than trying to label that as ego, get rid of it, notice the source of the longing. So in the meditation, I use the image of a beam of light and the light drawing back into the source of the flashlight instead of continuing this habit of having this outward beam move from object to object to object. So Martin, as a practice, fall in love with the art of remembrance rather than employing the same conditioned technique to your spiritual practice. Thank you, Martin. All right, Charlie, hello.
Oh my God, I'm so excited this works.
Great, welcome. It's very good to see you.
You too. Hi.
Hi.
You said in the meditation, and it resonated with me. If you meditate because you're in love with your luminous self, then you will always be in love. So rest in love as love and allow equanimity to be the byproduct of said love, not something that you're striving for. And that it just sang with my soul. So thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, Charlie, because I've had the chance to speak with you a few times now in these morning calls that have been offered through Sangha Live, I want to reflect to you that one reason this approach might speak to you is because you are deeply conditioned and deeply habituated to forget that there are options. To just think, if I want to be more peaceful, I have to try to be more peaceful. If I want to have a life that doesn't have negativity in it, and I'm just being general based on some of the things I've heard you talk about before, then I need to get rid of those things. Rather than giving the attention to the experience of becoming clear about what's what, who's who, clear about process, as we're naming in this call, the process of striving is the process of striving, no matter what the content is that we're striving for, that the process doesn't change. We feel like something different is going on, but that's just because the objects are changing. Oh, something different must be happening, that now my attention's on the table, and now my attention's on a dog, and now my attention's on a bottle of vodka, and now my attention's on how I shouldn't drink that bottle of vodka, right? So we think something different is happening. But it's with this example, it's the same movement of attention, the same going outward to an object, seeing ourselves as separate from that object, and then being in relationship with it. Now, those are neutral examples. Well, except for with you, I'm being playful about vodka, right? There I am. I have this relationship, and now we're moving into something where there's charge. So it's not just a table or a dog.
Yeah.
So the stakes get higher because there's charge there.
And that habituated groove that you mentioned on Wednesday night, that it feels like a canyon in my brain.
Yes.
That I was unable to climb out of for so long. And then I found spirit again, and it lifted me up out of that canyon. And now I feel like, along with the imagery of my awareness just being that open sky or that continual ocean. I know that the canyon exists and I can view it from above, but I don't have to fall in.
Yes. Yes, these grooves only are dug deeper through our attention. If we're not attending to them, they don't continue to deepen and solidify and harden.
Okay. That's huge.
It's huge, isn't it?
It's huge. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the canyon doesn't have to remain.
Yeah. Most importantly, the canyon can be freed to not be a threat. Because you're not in relationship with the canyon because you resist it, want to change it, don't want to go down it on the boat anymore, right? Because if you're drawn to a call like this, you've already seen that you don't want to just do the old habit that leads to suffering anymore. You wouldn't be engaged in this conversation in the way that you have with me through these morning calls and through the Wednesday evening offering through Presence Collective. You wouldn't be engaging in this way if you weren't clear that suffering's optional.
Yeah.
How we are in relationship with what is something that we have conscious choice about.
Would you say that conscious choice, it feels like for me, I'm making that conscious choice. My spirit is now making the conscious choices. My spirit is at the wheel, if you will, as opposed to the ego.
Yeah. I mean, Charlie, I think what you're trying to do with language is actually valid and important. You want to make a distinction between the conditioned person, if you will, that's been driving the car in your life and being able to touch in with something else that might drive, wanting to give that name. If the word spirit works for you, wonderful. Some people might say soul. This sense that you're pointing to is, again, it's very important. It's the recognition that it's something that's beyond this illusion of a self that's separate from life, that's just busy trying to survive. Ages ago, it might have been the part of us that's trying to be sure we don't get eaten by the mountain lion. But what is the role of that when I'm sitting at my desk all day?
It doesn't need to be there anymore.
Mm-hmm. You, Charlie, are looking to give the keys to something else.
I don't know what just happened. Yeah. I not only looking to give the keys to something else, but just to surrender.
To surrender to something else. Yeah. Yeah. By give the keys, it's just a metaphor to point to you're surrendering to something else driving the car other than this sense of separate, my mind.
Yeah. Yeah. It feels like so many things for me these days, and they're all these joyous, beautiful gifts. And, maybe that's the way that my separate self is choosing to view them. But, I'm putting the focus on, a gray day as a gift, a time to go in and relax and maybe catch up on something interesting on television or read a book. And then the gift of a sunshiny day as an opportunity to soak up some vitamin D and, appreciate the flowers and the breeze.
Charlie,
Yeah.
you'll appreciate that apparently Krishnamurti, before he died, when asked by a student if he had any words, said something to the effect of, "I don't mind what happens. Sunny day, cloudy day, snowy day. I'm here. I'm undisturbed by weather patterns. I'm that which is my true nature, which isn't mine. It doesn't belong to a singular self. True nature is ever present."
Yeah.
And
Chris,
I know myself as that true nature. I claim that experience, not as an individual self, but as an act of remembrance. I recognize that true nature.
it's beautiful and it resonates.
Thanks for coming
Caverly,
on, Charlie.
thank you for being here.
Yeah, to be continued. Thank you. All right, friends, let's see. Let me see if I can get back over to ask a question. Here we are. Okay, Kendall. I often find I'm identified with intellectualizing as opposed to experiencing. I'm not sure how to get beyond this except to keep practicing and recognizing myself as that which is aware of the headiness of experience. I'm wondering if you could speak to this. Thank you, Kendall, for writing this in. Very good question. The tendency to go straight to, I suppose I need to keep practicing, is the mechanism that I've been pointing to today, this habit to strive, to do, to achieve. I need to practice not intellectualizing. Kendall, simply notice you aren't that which is intellectualizing. Notice, there's the conditioned mind again. Thinking about experience. There's no problem in that. That is the nature of the conditioned mind. The moment of suffering comes when we think that's who we are. And this relates perfectly to the meditation offered, Kendall, because it's like there's the intellectualizing. So I'm going back to that, the way I started the meditation, noticing self-talk, then noticing who, in a sense, is the witness. Does that witness hold a specific view? Does that witness hold a specific set of beliefs and assumptions? Does the witness believe, for example, that thinking mind needs to be gotten rid of? So, Kendall, what you're describing is being identified with that witness who can see the intellectualizing. Oh, there's too much headiness going on. Imagine if that voice then went on to say, you need to do something about that. You need to recognize yourself as something else. Can you feel how that's just staying in this conversation? Simply notice how you're able to report all of that to me, Kendall. It's only through awareness. So surrender to that awareness rather than identifying with the conversation and then the conversation about the conversation. And remember, there's nothing wrong with headiness. A byproduct of being stuck in the head, if you will, is that there might be suffering created. But remember, you aren't that which suffers. Thank you, Kendall. I would love to hear if that spoke to you. Abbas, I'm sorry you weren't able to come on screen. Thank you for typing your question in. Is that right, that trees, mountains, and other beings are in perfect alignment with life, and only we, as the Hing that has an ego, I mind, and that has the illusion, causes suffering, in we separate ourselves from life? Abbas, if I'm understanding your question correctly, I think what you're asking is, does a tree or a mountain have the capacity to perceive itself as separate from life? Is it your experience that it seems to be the case that a tree can perceive itself to be separate from life by comparing itself to another tree or by striving to be taller? Those things would be indicators of the perception of separation. In order to perceive ourselves as separate from life, we have to be identified with the conditioned mind. Not unconditioned, open, infinite awareness, but the conditioned mind. Small mind, we might say. I hope that spoke to and clarified your question, or maybe gave you more to question, which would be great. Let me know, Abbas. Thank you. All right, Stefan. Hello from Stockholm. Hello. Thank you ever so much for this meditation. Oh, I think, Stefan, we covered this one. I think I've answered this one. I think it's just still in the question box, but I think this one was answered. Yes, this was about Advaita Vedanta, so thank you. We did touch on that one. I'm just scrolling to see if there are any other questions maybe I've missed in the sidebar, or if there are any other folks who would like to come on screen. We have a few more moments here, and I'd love to see you on screen if you'd enjoy that. And I will again just scroll through. Emma, I think you mentioned no starting or ending point identified or attributed to awareness. This idea of it being unquantifiable. Yes, this, if you'd like to put this in a historically Buddhist frame, check out the writings of Zen Master Bankei, the teachings of Zen Master Bankei. There's a lovely book called The Unborn, and that's where I borrow this phrase from, the unborn mind. Finding comfort in the immeasurable is difficult. As soon as you touch it, you want to try and assess how good it really is. Well, what's lovely about your comment, thank you for writing in. I believe this was Emma. Yes, thank you for writing in, Emma. What's lovely about your comment is that you are seeing the conditioned mechanism to try to assess. The empty space of the room isn't assessing how good the space is, or if the space is pleasurable, or if the space is enhanced by the people who walk in it, or if the space is diminished upon the exit of those who have entered. So it's important that you're recognizing that process. I would encourage you to consider to have some inquiry around how you come to the conclusion that finding comfort in the immeasurable is difficult. We are conditioned to find comfort in the illusion of control. Look how quick we are to try to build a new narrative about the global pandemic that we're in the midst of. We're collectively looking for what's the narrative, what's the story that we'll all agree upon. But there's nothing wrong or bad, but watch closely as we do that. Often that comes from a deep habit for the illusion of a self that's separate from life, for the ego to be uncomfortable in the unknown. And in that, we miss the richness of the unknown, the opportunity in the unknown. In truth, we've never known. That unborn mind doesn't know, quote unquote, in the conditioned sense, in the sense of having control by having answers. And yet at the same time, within pure consciousness, all there is knowing. The knowing of direct experience. So Emma, it would be a really wonderful time to practice being in the unknown, watching the conditioned tendency to resist not knowing, rather than release into the recognition that that type of not knowing is another byproduct of your true nature. Like equanimity. So thanks for tying us back to our theme, Emma. Friends, we're at our time. It's so lovely to be here. If I didn't get to your question, I see that there are a few I didn't. I would love to have you join Jan, Kate, Jeannie, please, Jeannie Marie, please do come to one of the morning sessions through Sangha Live, same platform. I'm teaching every day from 8 to 9, and it's been a deeply lovely experience. Very, very rich conversations happening every morning or afternoon or evening, depending on where you are. So please do come check that out. And I'd love to be able to address these dangling questions and continue to share practice with you. Just a few announcements as I depart. One is, so I run a nonprofit, Presence Collective and Peace in Schools. I'm the founder of both those expressions of practice in the world. And we do have a summer retreat that's going to be online. So that's at caverlymorgan.org if you want to check out the details for that summer retreat. And there'll be many different teachers from Presence Collective offering practice on that summer retreat. I also am delighted to report that a children's book that I wrote can now be pre-ordered, and that children's book is very much for adults as well as children. It's the book is part of a platform, a kid's book about. And they invited me to do a book about mindfulness, so it's called A Kid's Book About Mindfulness. But it's very the book starts with the question, "Who are you?" So the book is continuing with this theme that we've been focusing on today, and I would love to have you check that out. Again, my website is caverlymorgan.org, and I look forward to practicing with you soon. And thank you, Melanie, for all your hard work in the background, and many blessings. I think that's it for today. Appreciate you being here. Appreciate you being.